Hey, welcome back to the Retail Initiative podcast. I've been thinking about a little bit of a story, and I want to give some context, and then I want to talk about what it means for you today. So, first off, I was talking with my team this morning, and like we do this team meeting, like a huddle every Friday, and we talk about things going on in the retail world and all of that. And there was this message that we got from a client. It wasn't a big deal, but one of the things that I pointed out to my team was I was like, hey, each of you look back at how like this old version of yourself would have responded. Like, how would you respond to that message 2 years ago? It probably would be incredibly different, and not in a good way. Like, I know for me, 2 years ago, I had a really hard time letting my team do their jobs well. Like, someone would send a message and I would immediately get in and reply. And then my number two, Michael, would message me and be like, hey, Carl was working on a response to that, and you just kind of stepped on his toes. Like, what gives? And here's why I share that is a lot of times when you look back at where you were, like look at a current situation and think, how would the me of 2 years ago handle that? And what that helps you do is you can start to see where you've grown and you've matured and you're handling things with more maturity. And on the flip side, if they're like, no, I'd handle it the exact same, then we can start to say, okay, well, 2 years from now, how would I like to be responding? And how could I maybe steal some of that for today? But that's actually a little bit of a side note. But that's what led to this. If you knew how my brain works, like I get an input and I jump from like six things in my head, and then which my wife, it drives her crazy because I'll be in conversation. She'll say one thing and then I will respond a minute later on something completely off topic. But here's the story for today. So a few years ago, I don't even know how long ago at this point, but we were in like the point of sale world, and that was a massive part of what we did. I have a long story about that in other episodes. And I had hired Michael to join our team, and he was really building out this e-commerce side of the business. And at this point, I was starting to speak on stages and do a ton in the e-commerce space. It had been something I nerded out about for a really long time, but honestly, like I was making money in the point of sale world, and we were building that out, and it was a priority. I had said like decreasing revenue in this side of the business and increasing revenue in the other is what I want this year. But then I would start to look at revenue goals, and what would I do? I'd start pursuing more point of sale, because it felt at that moment like that was the thing I could control. I knew how to go get those clients in various ways. Like I was really good at that. And so I would do that. And then what would happen? Well, we now had projects we had to fulfill, migrations to do and trainings and flights to go implement all the stuff and do trainings. And I was then too busy to do the webinars, to do the training, to do the content, to go and find new places to speak and build relationships in that area. I would pursue this short-term goal, this thing that I knew would pay the bills that month, and I would sacrifice the long-term goal that I had set. And it wasn't until like I'd had enough where I had this moment where I was at my kid's soccer game. I mean, he was 3 at the time, so you can call it a game if you want. But I missed this big moment where everyone's cheering on my son and his little moment to shoot his goal. And people are chanting his name. And I'm 50 yards away on a call fixing someone's receipt printer who didn't even want to be talking to me. And so I'm 50 yards away talking to someone who doesn't even want to be talking to me. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I've had enough. And I had to like burn it to the ground. And it wasn't until I said, like, I've had enough. This is what I want to do. This is what I want my life to look like. Not only because I enjoyed it, but because I loved the impact that we were able to make. There's so many reasons that fueled that. Now, let's bring that to your world. In the space of retail, and most of my clients, most of my audience are successful brick and mortar retailers that are wanting to gain traction online. But how often is it easy to see the online thing and be like, yes, this is a priority. It's something that we want to pursue, but I know how to get sales in my brick and mortar right now. I know how to drive sales now. I know I can throw an event. I know I can do X, Y, and Z. Well, you throw that event, but then how busy do you get where you don't have the freedom to pursue the things that are going to grow your online sales. So you're throwing the events, but then you don't have time for photo shoots. And I'm not saying events are bad. In fact, events are an amazing way to drive revenue. I'm saying it as like we pick the short-term thing at the sacrifice of the long-term. So this one's a short episode today, but I wanted to share that story and hope that it encourages you to really start to think through, okay, what would it look like to say, okay, like, yes, I have the short-term needs, and what are some easy, like low-hanging fruit things that would not distract from my priorities, but would give us some of these short-term results that we need, but would still free me up to prioritize the things that I know are going to push my business forward in the way that I want. So think about that this week. I hope this was encouraging to you. I can't wait to see you next week. And honestly, if growing online is something that you want this year, and you're like, this is something I'm going to prioritize, I just need to know how. Honestly, I would love to connect. And so you can book a call at madebycapital.com/schedule. You'll connect with me directly if we're a fit. And we'll look at like, where's your business now? Where are you wanting to take it? And like, ultimately, where does e-commerce fit into that picture, and what's standing in the way of you getting there? And sometimes when we're a fit, I share what that looks like. And then when we're not a fit, my goal is to point you in a really good direction and really make that call incredibly valuable for you. So again, that's at madebycapital.com/schedule. Grateful for you listening. Can't wait to see you next week.